Good morning to our viewers. I'm Michelle Miller, and we're in the CBS This Morning Toyota Green Room with dietitian Samantha Heller. She's here to discuss the latest diet craze, this thing called the keto diet. And I have to tell you, not everybody's heard about this thing, but it is a bona fide craze these days. What's the science behind it? How does it work?
It is a craze. I get a lot of calls on my Sirius XM radio show, like, what do you think about keto? And the ketogenic diet was developed about 100 years ago, and it's used for children with seizure disorders like epilepsy.
Really?
Yeah, so it's a very high-fat diet, about 90% fat. So breakfast might be heavy whipping cream and some mayonnaise and 2 or 3 teaspoons of butter and a slice of bacon. I mean, way high fat. And the theory behind it is that it alters your brain metabolism to help decrease seizures in children. And there is some efficacy behind this, meaning they did see some success with children.
This is recalling that movie Lorenzo's Oil and the true life story behind it. This young boy had a debilitating disease, and this high-fat diet, this oil, really helped him along. Am I on the same plane with this, or no?
I don't remember what he was diagnosed with and what kind of oil they used, so I'm not sure if it's exactly the same physiological biochemical process. But what your brain loves sugar, it loves glucose, and that's the primary source of fuel for your brain. So if you deprive your brain of that food, of glucose, by not eating any carbohydrate or virtually none, your brain's going to find an emergency source.
And where is that
source is burning fat. And it comes from what we call fat oxidation. And then that creates something called a ketone. And the ketone body, or the ketone, is what's used for fuel. It is not optimal. But for children with epilepsy, they did find that it was somewhat helpful. In terms of weight loss, not a lot of evidence in humans suggesting that it's helpful or that it works for the long term, that it's sustainable.
So it sounds like you're saying you're not completely sold on this new fad.
I'm not sold on it at all. It's not healthy. You know, there's no fiber, there's no vegetables, there's almost no fruit, there's no beans, there's nuts, no seeds, no healthy grains. It's not a balanced, healthy approach. Now, people say, well, it worked for me. Well, what does that mean, it worked? I lost weight. Can you keep it off? Is it sustainable? Are you healthy? Are you healthy is the biggest question we want to ask. Not are you skinny, are you healthy? And over time, if you stay on a diet like that, you're not going to be healthy because you're not getting all of the different nutrients your body needs to be healthy, for optimal health, to fight disease.
We've been through this before. We've seen it with the Atkins diet, with this other diet called Whole30, the paleo diet. I've even done one called the B diet. And there are variations of this.
Right.
But what seems to be an interesting thought is that there's a fasting period. You only eat, 6 to 8 hours a day. Is that really the key behind part of what we have going on here?
Well, I don't know that it's necessarily relevant to specific diets, but there is a newer approach to eating styles called intermittent fasting.
Got it.
And that means, it's got a variety of meanings that, as you suggested, where you don't eat for 8 hours a day, you don't eat for 10 hours, you eat low calorie every other day. So there's many variations of it. And the research is suggesting that there may be some benefits for some people. It may lower blood glucose levels in people with diabetes. It may help people manage their weight or calories better. I don't love some of those variations because, first of all, we're already doing intermittent fasting because at night we sleep.
Right.
Hopefully we're not up in the middle of the night eating, right? But if you're sleeping for 8 hours, 6 hours, you're not eating. So we're already giving our body that rest it needs to get itself organized for the next day physiologically. I don't know that we need to do that every day. And I think that the people who really want to do it, who are desperate to lose weight or are desperate to lower their cholesterol or lower their blood glucose, they already have a complicated relationship with food. So when you're depriving someone of food for a day or very low calorie, it feels punitive. It doesn't feel good. And how long can you do that?
But that's the point. A lot of these people are doing it for a short period of time, anywhere between a week to a month, with the sole purpose of losing weight. And if they lose weight and that was their goal in the end, in the long run, is it not necessarily a bad thing? Or
they usually gain it back.
That's the question.
They usually gain it back. So the goal, at least my goal when I work with patients, is to say, let's craft a plan, an eating plan with foods you like in proper portions throughout the day that help you eat healthy, get all the nutrients your body needs to function really well at high speed, optimal levels, fight disease, and manage your weight. And it is doable, but it takes some thought. It's not sexy. It's not exciting.
It takes time.
And initially.
It takes time because these diets offer you quick weight loss.
Right.
And that's the sexiness of it.
Oh, yeah. And we like extremes. We want high protein only, no bread, or
we want rigidity.
All fat. Yeah,
rigidity.
We loved that for a while because we like that extreme. I'm not sure why we like that extreme, but in some ways, it's, as you said, it's easier.
Right.
You don't have to think about it. You don't have to make a lot of decisions. We make over 200 decisions about food a day, and many of us think about food even more than that. So to cut that back and not have to think so much about it, people like that. It's just not always the best way and the healthiest way to approach an eating pattern.
So everybody from like Halle Berry to Vanessa Hudgens to LeBron James to, I'm cheating here, yeah, the Kardashians and even Tim Tebow have tried the keto diet, or at least gone on the record. It would be interesting to hear from them to see if they are completely sold in that long run sort of, you know,
yeah, for athletes,
analogy.
It is certainly not optimal for athletes because the primary source of fuel for your exercising muscle is glucose, and that comes from carbohydrates. And carbohydrates aren't just pasta and bread and potatoes and crackers and cereal. They're fruits and vegetables and even beans. So carbohydrates, or anything that once digested, primarily turns to glucose. Glucose is an okay thing. Sugar's not toxic. It keeps our bodies alive. It keeps our bodies fueled. But portion is everything, and I think the quality of the food matters.
So the other thing, I think that what happens to a lot of people who do these fad diets, the question is, do they trick their body into a more fat-conscious mode, so that when they're off the diet, does their body have a sense to create more fat? Do they do their body harm going in and out of these diets?
I think what you're referring to is yo-yo dieting.
Yeah, I think that would be a good word to describe it.
And what the research suggests is when you do yo-yo dieting, which is you diet, you lose weight, you go off the diet, you gain the weight, you diet, you know, yo-yoing back and forth, that over time your body starts to become more efficient at storing fat because it doesn't know when the next meal is coming from. So if you purposely don't eat a lot of calories every day for many days, your body doesn't know you're doing it on purpose. It only knows it's not getting the fuel it needs to be healthy. Remember, your body's job is to stay alive 24/7, and it's going to do everything it can to keep you alive. It doesn't know why you're restricting certain foods or why you're low in vitamin B or vitamin C. It just knows what it has to deal with from what you put or don't put in your mouth. So the body's wisdom is stay alive. It doesn't understand why it's not being fed. And if it's not getting food, it gets scared, right? So it's like, oh my gosh, I'm not getting the fuel I need to stay alive, so I'm going to slow down. So I'm going to chill out. And then it does something else that's really cool. When you start eating again, it makes food taste better than it ever did before to get you to eat more because it doesn't know when the next food meal is coming. So your body is brilliant. And let's work with that brilliance to keep our bodies alive and not fight against it.
So the takeaway, eat a balanced, nutritious diet, but not in the traditional diet sense. Try to make it, what? A part of your life.
Well, a lifestyle. I like to call it eating. I've been mentioning eating patterns. You know, we don't just eat a single nutrient, as I said, you know, before. You don't just sit down and eat a plate of saturated fat or a plate of vitamin C. You eat food, right? And we know that the foods that come from the plant world are really healthy for us. And this research is suggesting, these very large epidemiological studies are suggesting that more plant-based diets are healthier for us for so many, many reasons.
So think twice before you move to one of those diets.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's your takeaway.
My takeaway is also, if you're confused and you just don't want to have the guesswork, see a registered dietitian. A registered dietitian, we're highly trained. We spent a lot of time in the school studying biochemistry and physiology and medicine. we can help you craft an eating plan that works with your budget, your food preferences, your lifestyle. What if you're a student? What if you have to get up at 3 in the morning to be on television? We can help you do that, so it's not quite so much guesswork.
And your own physiology.
Yeah.
I wanted to move on to another topic you came on CBS This Morning to discuss, and that was the whole buzz about coconut oil, and how a Harvard study, a Harvard professor rather, came out and said it is poison to your body. What's your take on that?
I don't really understand why she said that. I mean, coconut oil is a saturated fat, and that refers to the molecular structure. So it's really confusing and very complicated. But what we know from a lot of studies for decades is that diets that are high in this type of fat increase the risk, in particular, for cardiovascular disease. And so coconut oil is in that category. It has an undeserved health halo. It doesn't cure cancer. It doesn't necessarily prevent cognitive decline or Alzheimer's disease. We don't have evidence to suggest or to support those claims right now. You know, in the future, we might. On the other hand, coconut oil tastes really good, and you can cook at high temperatures with it. So if you want to make a dish with coconut oil or coconut milk, it's fine, but just once in a while.
I was taught when I was living in East Africa, coconuts are very plentiful, but there are various stages in which the coconut is more healthy for you. The coconut water is the optimal stage. They told us, drink the coconut water. It's better than like the real H2O. They said at the point at which it becomes like buttery, it's moving into that high fat concentration, and the hard coconut, when it is completely that hard, it's no longer even that gel, that's when you want to stay as far away from it as possible.
And did they say why?
Well, they just said that the maturation of the coconut was, I mean, really the optimal prime time to, or the ripest for nutrition, was when it was in the water stage.
Well, because there's no fat in the water.
Right.
It's coconut water. It's high in potassium, which is great. It helps lower blood pressure. But the coconut meat itself, I mean, I've always loved coconut. You just have to use it sparingly, like you would butter.
Awesome. Okay, so we know that. How does it compare to those other oils like olive and canola? Give us a quick rundown of that.
So what we want to do is we want to avoid fats that are solid at room temperature. So coconut oil is solid at room temperature.
True.
And so is butter and dairy fat and bacon fat and chicken fat. So solid at room temperature means it's saturated. Unsaturated is liquid at room temperature. So what oils are liquid at room temperature? Olive oil, canola oil, avocado oil, peanut oil, soy oil, those are liquid at room temperature, and those are the ones we want to eat or consume more of. Now, a tablespoon of olive oil and a tablespoon of butter, which do you think has more calories?
Tell me.
They're about the same.
Really?
Yeah, because they're both fats.
Got it.
9 calories a gram. So calorically, they're the same, pretty similar, but the unsaturated ones just offer more health benefits.
Quickly, the New England Journal of Medicine came out on fish oil, and I was told fish oil is a cure-all, certainly really good for your thyroid gland, but the study is saying maybe not so.
Well, this study was called the Ascend study, and it was looking at over 15,000 people who had type 2 diabetes. And they looked to see if taking about 1 gram a day of fish oil lowered their risk of certain cardiovascular disease markers. And in the end of the study, which was about 7.5 years, which is long for a study and a big sample size, they didn't find a big difference, a statistical difference. However, the group that did take the fish oil did have a 21% lower risk of cardiovascular disease. Now, fish oil, or the omega-3 fatty acids, which is really what we're referring to, is one of the most studied nutrients around, and it's important for health, and it does seem to have health benefits for coronary heart disease. Also, it's important for healthy eyes and a healthy brain and healthy fetal development, so it's great to have it in your diet. It doesn't mean you have to take a supplement. It's found in fatty fish like salmon, but in plant foods it's in walnuts and soy and ground flax meal. It's an essential oil, so we have to eat it to get it in our system, and your body needs it to be healthy.
So the supplement is not as good as the real thing out of the whole food?
Well, the supplements are okay. If they're a valid supplement, you can look for the USP seal on the bottle to make sure it is what it says it is, because it's not regulated. Supplements aren't regulated by the FDA the way medical drugs are. And some people need supplements. I had my omega-3 fatty acid level tested, and it was really, really low. So I started taking a supplement.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So people may not eat seafood. You may not eat fish, which is a good source. So for some people, I think supplements may be warranted. This particular case was looking at a marker of cardiovascular disease and people with diabetes. But there are many other health benefits to omega-3 fatty acids in our diet.
People with thyroid conditions, certainly.
I don't know about the evidence for that, so I'm not sure about thyroid. But
I'm just here to tell you,
saying
it worked for
you?
me.
Okay, good.
It worked for me in a big way. So I want to thank you. You are amazing.
Thank you. So are you.
Dietitian Samantha Heller, we appreciate you joining us.
Thank you.